Hey there, Outposters, and welcome back. This is another bonus edition of Outpost Frequencies. We're doing this on a Saturday, just a few days after the season, series finale of Star Trek Picard. I'm assuming that there will be no Picards after this, which is probably for the best. And overall, I think Eggy and I have been, trying to keep up with it. We did talk about what we liked and what we saw after the first episode. And now we want to talk about the rest of the series. So, Matt, how you doing?
I'm good, my friend. How are you?
Oh, wonderful. So I've been well, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I will say that the more I ruminate on the last episode, the less I like it, but my less is like going from a 4.5 to a 4 or maybe a 3.5. Not like it's shit. Just I think that, and we'll talk about all the overall stuff, but I think that it just felt like so many things wrapped up too quickly. And we're finished with a little too nice a bow on them. And I had trouble with that because you've laid so much groundwork and so much intrigue and so many things going on in the course of the season, and then all of a sudden it's just like, and then we did this and it blew up and everybody's happy. And that was it. And it's okay. A little bit of a letdown. But thematically it worked.
I'm pleased you said that because we're 24 hours now since it aired, and I've been the same. The last few hours I've been sitting there thinking, and I don't want to sound nitpicky because we've been moaning for so long about getting a good Star Trek, and we finally got a good Star Trek. And then the final's here, and I'm like, oh yeah, that was great. And then as the time's gone, I'm a little bit like, however,
yeah, that's you and I are on the same page. I mean, first of all, season 3 was nostalgia porn. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
But it was still hung on a pretty good plot, I think. I had moaned a couple of times. I think that there was some things that they stretched out too long to fill episodes. And I think that time would have been better spent in moving some of this back a few episodes and then having it take more time to finish the finale. And I think then it would have been pretty perfect. But it kind of reminds me, like, Captain America, the Winter Soldier, right?
Yes.
Everybody considers that the best MCU movie, or I would say, if you ask anybody, they're probably going to put that one at the top. And it is really, really good. But it always bothered me that you got the Hydra, who spends 70 years infiltrating and planning and doing everything that they need to do to get to this point. And their whole plan is, it's like a guy who just can't hold his wad. It's like, and we've got the 3 carriers and murder 2 million people all at once. Bam! It's like, somebody's going to notice that, guys.
Yeah.
I mean, it just felt like I just can't hold it back anymore. It's been 70 years and blah, damn, the carriers are wrecked in the ocean. We're done.
That's it. I would like to see another probably episode or 2 after the finale, just to see the repercussions of what happened.
Yeah, or make it harder to do the finale.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. We talked about episode 1 pretty extensively. I've grouped this into what I would call a trilogy. The first 4 episodes are one movie, the second 4 episodes are another movie, and then the last 2 are the final movie. If you had gone 12 episodes, or if you had shrunk down that middle movie a little bit, and then made it 3 episodes and made the other one 3 episodes, so that you had it that way, I think it would have served the series better. And another caveat before we get started, and we probably get into all our nitpicks and everything. The show's heart was definitely in the right place.
Yeah.
I mean, it was ripping off Star Trek. It wasn't ripping off Doctor Who or Sex in the City, or whatever Discovery is doing or Strange New Worlds is doing. The Sisterhood of the Traveling Space Pants or whatever the heck that trailer was.
That
looks shit. And so I don't feel like anything ruined characters.
No.
With the possible exception of Dr. Crusher, who is just a little too trigger happy and murdery for my tastes.
Okay.
Now, I will say, look, she's been gone for 20 years. People change in 20 years. I get it. But there's no explanation of what changed her. Not really.
No.
And she's willing to morally go to some places that the Crusher in the show never would have done. And I keep thinking back to that episode where she was captured by terrorists, and the head terrorist kind of took a liking to her and was trying to convince her rather than force her because he was attracted to her. And they were having a lot of moral arguments, and she just would not come around to his way of thinking that you can enact political change through violence. And that was a strength of hers, in my opinion.
Yes.
She would heal. She was the one who got everybody moving forward to heal the Borg in Iborg.
Yep.
Hugh. And then when the rest of the crew is like, yeah, we're gonna do this weird geometric shape that's going to blue screen all their operating systems. And she's like, we're talking about destroying a race. I want to make sure that we're all on board with this. I mean, she did go with it, but she didn't like it. She understood what the Borg were, but she was the moral voice of reason. So to see her just casually murdering somebody on the ground, even if it is, and to be blowing up the Borg all over the place, she was the one that says, "Hey, I think we need to murder Vatic right now." And I get the mother thing. She was very protective of Wesley. That part of her was always there. And she probably would bend the rules when it came to protecting Wesley. But still, it felt like one step too far.
Yeah, because by her very nature, she's a healer.
Right.
And they kind of got away. And, Bones as well was very similar. He would always try and save the bad guy regardless. Prime example is when in The Undiscovered Country, where he's trying to save the Klingon.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't
always heal before injure. And you're right. They've changed that too much about her, because I don't think you can change your basic nature unless something severe happens to you to make you have a complete 360. And if that did happen, they never explained what it was.
No, and to be fair, I mean, she was on the run for 20 years. She was not in Starfleet. She was not without a support system that makes it easy to be all high and mighty about your morals. I mean, that's an interesting idea to explore too. They did that very well, I think, in Deep Space Nine, where they had to make a lot of more ethical quandaries because you're out in the middle of nowhere in the space station that was built by Cardassians, and you got the Dominion over there, and you got to deal with Bayshore, and you don't have Earth right there next to you. So, I mean, I think I'm not saying that isn't something we could have explored with Beverly, but because they didn't, it doesn't feel correct. So that was the only one that I pushed back against. And again, it wasn't overt. I mean, a lot of it had to do with her trying to protect Jack. Yeah. And given that Wesley went off and became space hippie or whatever the heck he did.
Whatever he was.
To drink a lot of soy, become really annoying. He shut up, Wesley. I get why she felt like she lost her one son, she lost her husband, and now people are after Jack, and she doesn't know why. And so I mean, again. It didn't feel like it was like she just, crazy, nothing close. But needed that something. Needed something to tell us, hey, that's just why Beverly is this way.
Yes.
So yeah, that was my only real gripe about the characters. The rest of the characters I thought aged and
I've got a
grew
gripe.
pretty well.
I've got a
Worf,
gripe about Worf. Yeah, too comedy.
to comic relief.
Too,
Yeah.
yeah, too much. I mean, I think in parts it was okay, and there's certain scenes you think that was quite a nice surprise of him coming out with a one-liner like that. But I think the one that really got me was in the final when after it was all done and good, and they all sat down in their chairs, and then he starts snoring because he's falling asleep, and I was like, really? Come on.
Well, he is 127 years old. Give him a break. So,
Yeah, but
it's a lot of exertion on us old men. I bet when you're about that age, you'll be like, yeah, I'd be asleep too.
I'm like it now.
I'm less irritated with Worf being comedy relief because certainly in the show he had his pretty funny moments
Yeah.
that were mostly and these were in character funny moments as far as I was concerned because he was the comedy came from Worf because Worf was always reacting seriously or in character or unexpectedly than a human would react, but completely in character
Yes.
for him. It's a situation that made it funny. It's like when Riker makes the terrible eggs and he just loves them. Yeah,
Yeah.
or he starts
Prune
drinking
juice.
prune juice. Right. I mean, it's just odd little moments like that you go, oh, they're funny because it's Worf, right?
Yes.
They're I guess you call them not quite fish out of water, but just juxtaposition humor, I guess.
Yeah.
And so that is the humor they embraced with him, and I was fine with that. I just think he lacked serious moments. The reason why I'm less irritated by that is because Worf has had more screen time than any other Star Trek character in history. It's not like we haven't explored the shit out of his character.
He's done well. He's done very well.
Yeah. So the fact that we were well, that takes me to what I really thought they did a great job with, and that was Riker. I feel like this was
Oh, amazing.
as much his show as anybody, and that's a guy I think did get short shrift in Next Generation. Not terrible, but I mean, just never really found that overarching thing. It was, he was mad at his father, but that kind of got fixed up in season 2, I think, and it wasn't really a big thing. And then he wanted to be a captain, but he wanted to be captain of the Enterprise. But he seemed happy where he was. I think the biggest character arc that we had with him that he was like, I think I'm too happy. Like, okay, well, it's not a lot of conflict there.
There you go.
I know we had the thing with him and Thomas Riker, which was kind of interesting, but they never really did much with that.
No. I mean, because there was rumors about this one that he was actually going to be Thomas Riker and not Will Riker.
Yeah, I'm
When
glad
this
they didn't
show
do that.
started. But no, I'm glad they didn't do that. But no, I thought Riker was brilliant. I've got to be honest. His chemistry with is it Miranda Curtis?
Marina Sirtis, yeah.
Marina said their on-screen chemistry is just brilliant. Absolutely
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's off the
Kind of get
charts.
impressed. A lot of it's it's a little. You kind of feel it's a little bit ad lib.
I kind of wonder. I mean, they put these characters, these actors put back on these characters like a pair of comfortable old slippers. I mean, these are they fall into this so naturally, and that Riker. So Riker had, I think, where the conflict with him came in, and I think it was the only good thing, or at least like something they could take from one of the first seasons and use that to their advantage, was the death of Riker's son.
Yeah.
And so they got to explore that and how that affected his relationship with his friends, with his wife, with his career. He's still a captain, you notice. He's not an admiral. And you got to wonder how much of that played into where he just was no longer ambitious, because what's the point if you've lost your child?
Yeah.
So I think there is some interesting ideas from that, and they mined that pretty well. He was able to heal his relationship with Deanna. He was able to find some purpose again within the structure of the story.
And you feel as well that this season he had an itch to scratch when John Luke first met him, and he said, you know, that Deanna and whatever his daughter was called, they'd probably be grateful for the break from me. And then you sort of see him step into the shoes of becoming the captain of the Titan again because Shaw's injured. You kind of feel like he was in his element, and then when it was over and done with, there was a sense of relief that he just, like a boxer going into that one fight, like Rocky going in for that one final fight, just to scratch an itch and just to finally have closure. That's how I felt like I was in this.
And I think there was more to it than that, because he wasn't going, like, he had been the captain of the Titan and he was still in Starfleet. If he wanted to be a captain of another ship and he wanted to move forward, he could have. There was nothing stopping him. So I think it was more along the lines. I think this is where the nostalgia works strongly in the season's favors, because Riker's going back with his old crew. He's going back with people that represents a much different time for him, and allows him to rediscover that joy of exploration, of adventure, of loyalty, of complete, doing something bigger than himself, and not be wallowing so much in the death of his kid. And that's pretty cool. And then Marina or Deanna is perfectly in character in being a terrible effing counselor because she's apparently she's trying to take away all his pain instead of letting him go through his grief, which probably hollowed him out even more.
Yeah.
And then when we get to the end and Data's trying to deal with all his newfound emotions and mindset and everything, and she's looking through for vacations. So that's perfectly in character. She sucked as a counselor.
Yeah. And then Riker called him Data batshit crazy. he's waited decades to have more human emotions, and now he's got them. He's like, I just can't cope with them.
I can't deal with this. At one point, Riker's like, I think Worf says some shit, and he's like, I don't understand the world anymore. And then I thought it was nice. I mean, because Deanna has been a terrible counselor, but she's a great telepathic GPS, so she can find him in the Borg, and she's the one that pilots the ship, which every Star Trek fan is thinking, oh God, she's going to wreck the fucking ship again.
As long as she ain't got a parallel parking, it should be all right.
Every time that woman drives, jeez, don't give her the keys. What are you doing? She even said it in her interview. He's like, they threw the keys to any random ensign. They gave it to the kid. They gave it to the robot. They gave it to me. Smash into the ground. So she got to I appreciate it as a minor little redemption moment. She flew the Enterprise out and back out of the cube. So that was cool. I don't know. Do we want? I mean, I feel like everybody that's watching this has probably seen all the episodes.
Oh, I would have thought so, mate. Yeah.
So I guess, I mean, I could go through episode by episode, but it's just like, I don't know how much.
Ground.
Yeah, I feel like we are. So just to do broad strokes, I mean, we have the first 8 episodes, you would say, is probably them dealing with Vatic, who is really the main protagonist or antagonist in this. The Borg Queen was she's. I guess I'm gonna get to my nitpick props. So she's and the Changelings, who have split off from the Great Link, I guess have been modified by the Borg so that they can shapeshift way better than they did, or was that Section 31 that did that to them? Maybe it was Section 31. I'm not really clear.
I don't know. I got the impression it's probably the team up with the Borg, because Section 31 were experimenting on them, and then Vatic managed to escape.
Yeah, I think it was 31 that made them better, but then she teamed up because the Borg. I don't know what the Borg could do. If you'll, she's now I did like the Queen is in there and she's basically eating all her drones.
Yeah,
I mean,
fantastic.
you want to talk about communism? If that's what the collective is, they call it the collective, right? So I mean, it's like, the leaders eventually just feast off the people. That's what happens in every Cuba, Soviet Union, you name it. That's what always effing happens. So whether he meant it or not, that's absolutely, I can see him just sucking the marrow dry, just trying to keep their power.
And the fact that all the drones are under 25 as well, which was like easily
that was great,
amazing.
So they send out for those of you who haven't watched, they send out this signal, and because of all sorts of technobabble DNA nonsense that they stuck in the transporter, they were able to activate these genes in people to Borgify them, but it was only people under 25, which I immediately start thinking of the algorithm in TikTok. It's serious. That social media and all this, it's like, well, who's it affecting the most? And what is it doing to them? The kid commits suicide because he watched too much TikTok. And TikTok is getting kids to cut themselves to pieces. Well, what's a Borg? You're a mutilated human as a Borg, right? And it defiles your body to be a Borg. And that's what all these algorithms are doing. So you may not have meant to put the symbolism in there, Terry, but we found it all the same.
We know he meant to put that in there. Nothing's by accident.
Maybe. I mean, it could be unconsciously, because the Borg just, when you look at the Borg as a science fiction trope, then you could do all kinds of things with them. But if you are an asshole like me who parallels the things he sees in the real world, I mean, it's like, it's kind of the same thing. And that's the only time I found like the idea of this is the first time I found the idea of a queen palatable, because the whole idea of a collective and everything I thought was kind of a thing for communism, but it was kind of like the communism that it was supposed to be, where everybody was completely the same, so nobody had a voice. But real communism is a bunch of assholes at the top sucking all the value and resources out of everybody else. Yes. And that's exactly what happened with this queen. Yeah. That's exactly what she was doing. So, maybe I'm starting to come around to it a little bit. But
I know we've discussed this before, because I've never had an issue with the queen. I quite like the fact that there was that one person pulling all the strings. And obviously we've just had it again.
Yeah, I think it's probably more true to life. I just found the idea of nobody in charge and being completely subsumed scarier in the show.
Okay.
I thought that made the Borg more powerful and more compelling. And they've kind of pussified the Borg ever since the Queen has come in. They've kind of made them less. They've been getting easier and easier to kick their ass. Okay. This one, it was like, just light a firecracker, throw it in there, boom.
Yeah. I'm going to defeat you with love.
Yeah, good old fashioned chain reaction. Oh, you could just leave the Borg now? You could just, if you want to, you could just leave? Oh, didn't know that was an option. Okay. All right.
Just unplugged himself from the Matrix, and off he went.
Yeah, through the power of love. The thing is that it's kind of like when, Luke saves Vader. This is Picard saving Jack. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of Return of the Jedi parallels in that final episode. Yeah. A lot of them. Yeah. It was a little, the Enterprise is now like an X-wing. It's the Enterprise Falcon. Yeah, the Millennium Enterprise. Yeah. It's going through, and we have Han Data just piloted anything better than anybody. And then he comes out, like they come out as it's blowing up, and then you can see him, leaving like with a fire trail after him, just like the Falcon coming out. And then, like, okay, you got some Star Wars in my Star Trek. You got peanut butter in my chocolate. But it was great.
It was great to see it. I understand. It was great to see it, though.
I started thinking about this, though, because they're showing the Enterprise being more maneuverable than it ever has been, and probably more powerful than it ever has been. Now, if Geordi was restoring it like the way it was, which if you look at the bridge, he did, because it was actually the way it was in the show and not in the movie Generations.
Yep.
Would it be this? Would it be the same? Would it have the same, or did he upgrade it, some of it to newer technology? Because you just, I mean, it's not like he's going to get this stuff over on eBay. I mean, maybe he's got to make do with what he's got to be as accurate as possible. But some of the stuff you just got to upgrade because there's no choice.
I think it was upgraded. I'd like to think it was upgraded because he said he had the nacelles from a different ship and something else. I'm not too familiar with the other ships he mentioned, but were they more modern ships to the D?
Well, this gets me to my larger question, okay? The Enterprise and the Enterprise D and the ships of the show of the 80s and 90s and the 60s weren't maneuverable because you had to use motion control cameras. Yeah. And you can only move this ship so fast. That's the real world explanation, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. So then we are conditioned as viewers to accept the way these ships move because of the limitations of the show. And so it cements in us a certain expectation of how things work in that universe because of the way it's presented to us. Okay. You're following me so far? So like the Enterprise, when I'm watching the Enterprise, it's moving this fast to get away from the Romulan ships because, you know, my mind tells me it's a big giant ship. There's inertia. You can only move so fast. The real world explanation is because I'm on a motion control rig and I can only move this fucking fast. So you take the technology of what you have at the time when you're presenting these shows and you create a world with it that gives me as a viewer a certain set of expectations of how that world works. Okay. 30 years later, now you can do everything in CG. You can make the ship do whatever you want. And so now, to me, it breaks my expectations of how that ship should move. Is that me? The question I have is, I'm trying to articulate this properly, but they set the ground rules. They set the presentation of the show, and they actually used the limitations of the technology at the time to give you good explanations of why the Enterprise took this long to move or why it did whatever it did, you know, that it couldn't just do anything it wanted because they couldn't do it. And so then they write the canon with explanations. Now that you can do it, aren't you kind of throwing canon out the window? Or should I say, look, if it was a real ship, it probably could maneuver that well. They just couldn't show it back then. Which one of my brains here is fighting? I'm trying to come up with an explanation of why the Enterprise moves so differently now than it did then. Now, I know the real world explanations because there's no way they could have done it like that then. They have CG. They can do whatever they want now.
Yeah.
But, okay, but you wrote the show a certain way. You wrote the show because you had limitations of technology at the time. You couldn't do holographic viewers and everything back then because we just didn't have the computing power to do that kind of visual effects. So you presented the show a certain way. It's like when they upgrade the bridge of the Enterprise in Strange New Worlds, I'm like, but that's not what it looked like in Star Trek.
Yeah, I've got a gripe with that. And
you embraced that when you did flashback shows, even in the 90s. You embraced that look. You did it in Trials and Tribulations and some others.
Yes.
So either you embrace the limitations and you say, this is the way it was, and we've upgraded then, which means if you're going to do shows in the past, it should look like shows of the past. Or you're expecting me to say, I get it, we couldn't do that kind of stuff back then, we're going to do it now. But if that's the way you're going to do it, then you got to be consistent about that. And I guess these are the hazards of doing a show for over 60 years. But you know, I mean, the people that planned all this out in the beginning are dead. So you know, how do you come across that? And you certainly can't give modern audiences a show that looks like Star Trek TOS or even TNG. They're not going to accept it. So but I find it. I guess this is just a fascinating intellectual exercise. It's like, if you're going to bring back all this nostalgia, but then you're going to make it look and act and work differently than it did back then, Now, I'll admit, the bridge looked fantastic. It looked exactly
Yeah,
like it did before. It was even lit properly.
perfect.
But then, okay, if you went to that level of accuracy to recreate what was, then why don't you do it on the outside as well? Why don't you do it in the space shots as well?
See, I'm on a different path to you with this because when I saw the Enterprise moving around like it did, I loved it because one of my gripes has always been, and I know that was limited by the technology at the time, was that the Enterprise always moved like a lot were a truck. You call it a truck, where it's forward, and then when it has to maneuver, it has to take like a wide berth and go around. Well, I'm thinking, well, you're in space and there's no resistance, so in theory, the ship could go up, down, backwards, left, right. It shouldn't have to always go forwards. To
No,
reverse,
but there
it
is
should just be able to
there
spin.
is mass and inertia too.
Yeah,
And in fact, without resistance, it's even harder to turn the damn thing around. And if you turn it too fast, which you could with those power, everybody ends up in a stain on the wall. I know that's why they have inertia dampers, but you have to be careful with that stuff. So I don't know.
it's when
I
there's
kind of
always
looked at it as
escaping
like,
from an enemy.
well,
Yeah, but
even
I
in
like that,
Star
though.
Wars, the big ships move slow, the little ships zipped around. And
That's fine, but my point being is, in the Enterprise, whenever there was running away from an enemy, they would always just go forward, and I would always say you can just go up or just go down. You did find that with X-wings and the Millennium Falcon, it would always just be able to just do that. So to see the Enterprise moving like it did throughout the Borg cube, and I know it was a bit of a Return of the Jedi ripoff, but I loved it. I was like, oh yes, I've waited a long time to see this movement on these ships. But
and
on the
and
flip
real
side,
world, they should be able to do that. I agree. So
yes.
that's
So I don't have an
something.
issue
I don't
with
know.
that.
I'm looking at it like I just kind of was. I just thought of it as intellectual exercise. Like, okay, finally we can see the ships do what they're supposed to do. It's like, yeah, but they couldn't do it back then, so why can't they do it now? And if you're I guess I find it amusing how we pick and choose what is canon and what needs to be
Yeah.
explained and what we go, eh.
Yeah,
fine.
I was like that with this. I do. I will stand by you though when you're talking about the design of the ship, especially in Strange New Worlds, when they look more advanced than the next generation stuff.
Yeah.
And I think they would have done a lot more credit to the show if they'd kept it looking like Kirk's Enterprise.
Well, then I think about it like in terms of the real world. It's like, well, we can do stuff now that looks better than that ship in Kirk's Enterprise.
Yeah,
Because they built that in 1966. People at home could build something that would look a lot nicer.
yeah, but
And
there's
so,
no
of
happy
course, it would look way better in real life than what they could possibly do in 1966.
Yes.
So I'm kind of like, yeah, it would be upgraded. But you already acknowledge that that's exactly what it looked like because you've done it on
Yeah.
the show too many times.
Too many, and even as recently as when Scotty made an appearance in the Next Generation. Do you remember he
Yeah.
went on board the holodeck? So
Yep.
I think if again it's Kurtzman though, isn't it? But I think I would have been happier with the Strange New Worlds if there was like a happy medium between the old and the new, rather than just go full on new. But let's chuck some red in there just for nostalgia purposes.
Yeah, I mean, you got to expect because I mean you could look at the original Enterprise, the original show, and it's like, well, we have shit that's better than that now. For instance, we don't use
Yes.
floppy disks and put stuff into things, right? We don't do that anymore. He was always doing the colored squares. Now,
that's it.
1966, it's very forward thinking. Everybody had a monitor on their desk, right?
Yeah,
Because everybody had a computer. Very forward thinking. By the time you get to 1987, everything's gone laptops and tablets. They have pads all the time. They're holding a pad and they're doing all that kind of stuff. Or he always had that little laptop sitting on his desk. Now, 1987, very forward thinking. Everything's flat screen and that sort of thing. We have all that now. In 200 years, all that shit's going to be gone. We can only do what we can imagine based on what we've come to at this point because we don't know what's coming. So
True.
part of me is like, Mark, you're being a pedantic asshole, and I get it. But part of it is like, I guess my whole struggle with this is like the arbitrary decisions to stick to canon and change things, you know.
Yeah.
And it's, if you're going to recreate the bridge that meticulously, which I appreciated, do you recreate what the Enterprise could do that meticulously?
Well, I mean,
I'm struggling with consistency, as usual.
I don't know. Like I said, I don't have a major issue with with the maneuverability of the ship and thing, and the Kelvin timeline. Obviously, that's completely different. But then I regard that as
That's
something completely separate to what we're looking. I just
that's
think
that's
it's
the
fine
garbage
upgrading.
timeline. That's the dystopian timeline.
I like the first one. I'm not going to lie. I like the first one. I
I
just
don't
think
anymore.
a happy medium. Don't you? I do. I'll still watch it.
Nah, I tried to watch it again. I was like, oh, this really. Maybe because I know what's coming after. Maybe what I know that this is what kicked off all this Kurtzman Trek garbage. But it's still, everybody acts kind of out of character, and I'm not really. It just doesn't work for me. Maybe it could have, but
I don't think they'll ever make the fourth. I don't think that'll ever happen.
I don't want them to. I'm at the point. It's like, I had my 35, almost 40 years of really good Trek, or decent Trek. Even Enterprise has its moments, and Voyager is got its moments. And TNG and Deep Space Nine were great, and of course I love the 6 Trek movies. Even kind of like 5. I don't know. 5 has grown on me. 5 has grown on me.
Which one's 5?
When they go to find God.
Nice. I can't even watch it.
I'm not defending it. I'm just saying it's grown on me. And I find it entertaining in its own right in some ways. And the other 5 Treks I think are good. I don't think there's a bad one in the rest of them. A lot of people say odd number Treks, but 1, especially director's cut, is really good. I've grown to appreciate it more and more, and I think 3 is a great middle part of a trilogy. I like it more and more as I've got. So I'm good with it. I would watch season 3 of Picard anytime as a nice coda to all this. I would watch it before I'd watch season 1 of Next Gen, which is
yeah.
I mean, 3 good episodes in that.
It's amazing how it ended up being such a success after that first season. I know everyone has trouble with the first seasons, but God, that was awful.
There's an interesting documentary on just how bizarre and how weird it was trying to make that first season with Gene Roddenberry, and I forget the guy's name, but I think he was the showrunner or he was the right-hand man of Gene that kept interfering with the showrunners. It wasn't until Berman and Pillar got on in season 2, then really took over in season 3, that they really got a handle on Trek.
Yeah.
But that first season is it's rough.
It's hard work. Excuse me.
Anyway, so moving on.
So back to Picard.
Season 3. Okay, so we get through the first 4 episodes, which is basically them rescuing Beverly and trying to escape that nebula with the Vatic. And they get out of there because Riker tosses a meteor or an asteroid at Vatic's ship on the way out, which was kind of cool. Then there was the birth of a new life, which I really liked. That's very Trek nonsense, seek out new life and all that. And then the second part 2 of this trilogy is uncovering the deeper mystery of changelings and who is behind it all. And during that time, I think the whole theme of most of the season is reconnection. And that's why there's so much nostalgia in it, because you have the crew reconnecting with each other, you have Picard reconnecting with Picard connecting with his son, and reconnecting with the idea that there will be Picards now. There will be Picards moving forward, so to speak. There was data being reclaimed, which I thought they did a good job with. They could have just this is my Trek brain versus thematic brain at war with each other, because I really liked that they brought back Data, and I really liked that it took some effort for Data to reclaim himself, and that gave him an opportunity to get rid of to resolve the conflict with Lore that never was really well resolved. And that's great. And now we have this new Data who is more of a human Data, like Pinocchio. You called him Pinocchio in the very first episode, right? Of Next Gen. And now he's actually become a real boy in some ways. They take the shit of the idea of a synthetic positronic human and they turned it into gold.
Yes. And I
by
like
giving
the idea
Data.
I like the idea how they, sorry, Yoda, you had Data who's like the light side, the goodness, and everything good and innocent about humans. And then you got Lore, who's obviously the polar opposite. And I liked the fact how they did the obvious, really, without me realising it, that you needed both sides of them combined to make the human being that he was seeking for. And
Which
which
they explored with
like,
good
so
Kirk.
obvious.
Good Kirk, bad Kirk. Good Data,
Kirk,
bad
bad
Data.
Kirk. And I was like, it was so obvious that that's what needed to happen. And it didn't dawn on me until it did happen. I was like, of course. It's like taking me like 30 years.
Thematically and character-wise, it's great. Trek, logic-wise, it is absolutely stupid as hell to put Lore into the same brain and expect that that's going to work out positively. That is dumb. Why would you do that? But they did. But okay. I can live with it because emotionally and storytelling wise and character wise, that part works. And it gives us an opportunity to bring Data back, and who should never have died.
No.
I mean, Nemesis was a travesty because of the way they killed Data because they wanted to redo Khan.
Yeah.
But it didn't have any of the same weight that Wrath of Khan was able to do. And it was just a cheap thing to do. I also felt it was cheap to destroy the Enterprise D because they wanted a new ship that looked more movie-like.
Yeah.
Not because it made sense to destroy the ship. And so they do it in a god-awful way where it's like, oh, he'll just fire through the shields. It's like, they can modulate shields. They've been doing that since they met the Borg.
Yeah.
Hello? Why are you keeping only one
frequency? Too logical, Yoda. You've been too logical now, mate.
Well, it's that's the problem. That's it. It's very interesting, and I think this. You just touched on something that's human nature. If you touch the emotional side properly and authentically, your logical side will just say, "Okay, whatever." Right? Like I can see it, but I can ignore it because it made me feel things.
Yes.
But Generation doesn't make me feel much, so all I see is the logic bullshit.
Okay.
Right? I think that's what happens. You get really nitpicky about the illogical stuff because the emotional and the thematic, and the character motivations are authentic and well played. And I'm not saying that you could just completely ignore the logical structure of a story. You have to have that. But you can be illogical here and there, or you can make kind of hand waving decisions here and there. If you're being true to the characters and the emotions feel authentic and you're really feeling things. And it's just, unfortunately, that's us as humans. We take that into our politics now, which is dumb. But we put too much emotion into real life stuff, which is to our detriment. But at least in a storytelling standpoint, you could get away with it because it's just a story. It's not the end of the world, right? So,
True.
and thematically and symbolically, I think there were some great elements in here, like we talked about with the social media and the way the Borg and communism, all that. Good stuff. Good stuff. I liked it.
Yep. Yes, I enjoyed it as well. I enjoyed it. And what did you think of all the? I've got to be honest. We spoke earlier about the characters. I tell you who was the standout. I know Riker was good. The standout character, I think, probably for acting chops, was LeVar Burton. Is it Geordi LaForge?
Mm-hmm.
I thought he was excellent in this. Absolutely
Yeah,
excellent.
another example of a character who has grown authentically. Like, this is what you could imagine Geordi would be in his 60s or 70s. A guy with a couple of kids and would be, doing a lot of engineering stuff, tinkering around with old starships in the Starfleet Museum, a Commodore, well respected, and maybe a little bit too overprotective of his kids because he's seen too much in his life. He didn't want that to happen to his kids. All that felt very authentic. Yeah.
I thought he was the stand for me. He was the standout character in this.
He did a great job. He did a great job.
He was good.
The other guy I really, really liked that grew on me more and more and more was Shaw. And I was really upset when he died. I was desperately hoping, even though this is probably never going to happen, definitely not going to happen, for a Shaw 7 series. I thought Todd Stashwick, he did a great job with the character. I think he was great. He was the comic foil that I liked because he had some gravitas to him and some weight.
Yeah.
He had his other moments, but he was, I just love his, I don't care about these guys. I don't care. He just thinks Picard and Riker are just full of shit. And he has no real, like everybody else, like, Jean-Luc Picard. Oh my God, the hero. And he's like, oh yeah, Picard guy. Jesus Christ, just shut the hell up. I can't stand that guy. God. But he had a real good reason.
Him. I hated him when he first started, but I think he was meant to hate him when he first started.
You were, but he had good reasons. He never had reasons to say things that were like just being a dick. It's just that if he had a good reason to be a dick, he took it every time.
Exactly. He was really good. And my only gripe with his character, because I knew you was meant to hate him at the beginning, was his whole sob story about the Borg and how he was only one of a few survivors. And
I thought that was great.
Blah blah blah. No,
I thought that was great.
Again, here we go, another mental health talking piece. We've discussed this before. I just couldn't be done with it. I was like, get over it. It's been 20 odd years.
No, I like that. I like that it was the same with Avery Brooks and Captain Sisko in Deep Space Nine. People have a lot of animosity for Picard because Picard basically wiped out thousands of people in Wolf 359, and I think everybody understands that he's not the Borg and everything. But here you go, emotion over logic, right? You watch all your people die. You got to blame somebody, and right there, Picard was the face of the Borg as far as a lot of people were concerned.
Yeah, I know, but he was manipulated and everything else. I don't.
They understand that. They understand that here, but when you got people that are dead, this ain't gonna deal with it. I'll tell you what. I like the idea that there are people who don't hold up Picard in high regard because of Wolf 359.
Mm-hmm.
What I don't like is at the end of this series, Jack, who kind of walked his way over to the Borg on purpose. I mean, Picard was kidnapped. He was taken.
Yes.
And you could say, well, Jack wasn't in his right mind. They were manipulating him and everything. I'll grant you that there probably was a little bit of that. But truth is, he didn't look like he was that manipulated. And he went to the Borg thinking that he was now young people. That's what they do. I can do anything. I can take out anything. And then your reality comes and hits him in the face. That if you look at it, that theme is awesome because young people, reality will always assert itself. Always.
Oh, yes.
But, you know, that people just kind of bring him into the good graces and nobody seems to be pissed at Jack.
I know.
When people are still pissed at Picard 30 years later, that was like, really going to just stick him on the bridge of the ship, huh? And then you're going to make him counselor? What? What? I mean, I see him in a lot of roles as an ensign getting started. I can see him sitting at ops or sitting at helm or in one of those stations in the back saying, "Oh, we're losing oil pressure," or something like that. But counselor to the special
Yeah.
were they just making up roles here?
Yeah, because he was always portrayed as someone who's quite hot-headed as well. So I'm not quite sure what advice he could be passing over to someone like Seven or like bloody Raffi. But yeah,
well, it's only been a year. I mean, you know, one of the things I liked, and this is where a long-running show with 24 episodes a season can really lay down little breadcrumbs and little groundwork to really get you to understand the universe. In Star Trek The Next Generation, you got the idea that Starfleet Academy was not something that anybody could get into. Wesley flunked it the first time. He didn't flunk it, but he wasn't the one chosen. He had to wait a year. And Wesley's supposed to be the bright, you know, awesome, right? And the people that get into Starfleet Academy and become officers are generally head and shoulders. An ensign is an officer, right? It's just right below lieutenant. There are rank and file people. Chief Miles O'Brien he called himself, you know, I'm a working class guy, right? He's an enlisted guy. He's a sergeant or, you know, a corporal or private. They have those people all over the ship.
yeah,
That's fine. But ensign, Jackson ensign now, after basically being okay, you're an officer now. Good luck. I get that he saved the world, but he kind of fucked the world in the first place. So
yeah, very true. She did mention that he's been fast tracked.
Yeah, I mean, they did some. That was some hand waving stuff in there, but I had this problem with this to me is a holdover from JJ Trek, because you remember in JJ Trek they just throw their caps up from graduation of Starfleet Academy, and next thing you know, 2 weeks later, Kirk's the captain because he didn't want to be the captain, and he didn't want to be the captain, and I wanted to be the captain. I was for a little while, but now I'm making him the captain, and I'm going to be. And he just kept swapping ranks like every 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and I'm like going, that's not how it works, man. It's a military organization. You know, there's paperwork, there's forms to be filled out, guys. You know.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I would have liked to have seen Jack as a low, like sort of learning the ropes again, because he's kind of been a maverick and he's been obviously out with Beverly for pretty much his entire life.
Yeah.
And
I mean, granted, they didn't make him a captain. They made him an ensign. He's got, you know, lieutenant, JG, lieutenant commander. He's got a ways to go before he even gets to captain. So
I'm sitting next to the captain on the bridge. I'm like, you wouldn't be doing that.
Not an ensign, no.
I want to see him chucked in engineering, taking orders from, you know, from someone superior to him, and him having to learn the ropes and toe the line and to learn his craft like we've been taught with, especially Picard, you know, throughout the series of the Next Generation. We had Picard going through the academy. We had plenty of flashbacks. So to get to the person he is now, he had to learn. You know, Picard said it himself. He needed seasoning. I would like to have seen Jack Crusher have a little bit of seasoning.
He's the son of Admiral Crusher and Admiral Picard. They joked that it was nepotism. Bullshit, it's nepotism. Yeah, it's not a joke, guys. We know what's going on here. There's no other way. There's no other real explanation that could be. He's an ensign on the new Enterprise G, which, by the way, I was like,
that was a bit. Come on. build a new Enterprise. Don't just rehash an old ship and just give it a name paint. It's
But
just like that.
I mean, the framing, the blocking clearly ripped it off from Star Trek 4, coming over the
Yeah.
top of the saucer. All right, come on. You didn't need to make it the Enterprise G.
No, it will never. Thing is, Yoda, I know they done it 'cause it was a nice little nod to the past, and it's a nice way to maybe potentially make future series using the Enterprise. But it will never be the Enterprise. It's always going to be the Titan. You've just
I
basically
will
put hot
admit,
rod flames on it.
I will admit it's the best looking ship, new
Yes.
type ship they've made in a while. But yeah, it's fine being the Titan. You know, we can let the Enterprise go. It doesn't have to be the Enterprise.
True.
And this is where Terry, I think, went like again. I think his heart is in the right place,
Yes,
and I think he was trying to really do as much fan service as possible. But there's a point where it becomes fan film instead of fan service, and I felt like that was fan film stuff. And I don't know that the guys, we're nitpicking a lot of stuff here. It makes it sound like we hated the show. We didn't, or
No,
at least
I
I
loved it.
didn't. I would watch it again. I enjoy it. I know there's a lot of flaws, but I really had a good time with it. So I'm not, it didn't make me angry. It didn't make me roll my eyes. Chat, call me Chatmo, the former network executive. I think you summed it up perfectly. It's like it gave me anticipation. I was actually looking forward to seeing the next episode every week. And I can't say that about anything new Trek for a long, long time.
No.
Not since the beginning.
I thought it was great. You know, I know we are nitpicking, but overall it was fantastic. And it was something that we've been crying out for a long time, not just this franchise, but all the other franchises as well. Star Wars is the most obvious, but it was great. Do you know there's another little touch I nearly forgot about? Chekhov. Anton Chekhov. That's a classy move. Calling him Anton after Anton Yelchin, who's obviously passed away. I thought that was a really nice.
Wasn't Anton Chekhov the philosopher and writer from? No, you think it was Anton?
No.
Yes, I know it was Anton Yelchin.
I thought he was trying to put a fast one. No, I thought that was a lovely. That was a deep cut. It was a nice, subtle touch. It was a classy move. That.
Yeah, I like that. That was fine. Bring in a original cast member somewhere in this. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And it was
I thought
Koenig
it was
as well. I didn't know
It
that.
was. It was
He done
Koenig.
the
Yeah,
voice.
I recognized his voice immediately. I was like, oh,
Well,
that's
I
nice.
didn't. I didn't. I thought whoever they've got to do that has done a really nice version of like a younger Chekhov. And then
And
I
he
read
says-
that it was actually him, and I was like, wow, brilliant.
He says, my father said there were always possibilities. And I heard some of the Trek pickers go, that was what Spock said. He's like, yeah, okay. And then Chekhov took and said that a lot afterwards. And then he said it to his son. And so his son says that his father said it because his father was inspired. Come on, guys. I'm the nitpickiest of nitpicky. And even I'm going, bring it back a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. Some things you can get away with.
Well, I mean, some things are kind of like obviously explained. I did like. I loved. There was a lot of things they did to tie up some interesting ideas that were kind of left over from the golden years, I would say. One was, I always never felt like we had a good explanation of why Picard could hear the Borg in First Contact. And this kind of provided that explanation. And I thought that was cool. I liked that a lot. And then I like that they brought back Ro Laren, and gave her and Picard a chance to reconcile, because the last time we saw her, she had a gun on Riker and she was basically betraying the Federation. For good, we understand why she was, and it was very sympathetic, but that's what happened. And here, 30 years later, we get a chance for her and Picard to fix that.
Like I said, there's a lot of reconnecting, a lot of closure on this episode.
More reconnecting. It's all that's the thing.
Hold on,
Reconnecting.
Yoda, 1 second. Can you leave? Are you cold? Because it's got really dark here, and I can't. We're gonna film. We're filming this, and I can't. Can you leave that open or put this light on for me? I'll put the light on then, love, please. Sorry, Yoda, you're gonna have to edit that out. I just keep looking at my screen, and my wife's just gone out into the garden, and I went really bright because the door was open. Yeah, that's not really done anything.
You look okay.
There you go. We're going to keep it at that. It just look like red. That'll do. Sorry, mate. You're going to have to edit that.
That's fine. So, Ro, I thought she was a great little nod addition. It was not. It made sense that she would be doing what she was doing as a person who has been undercover, has learned tactical training, and who was willing to bend the rules.
Yeah.
And so her being in that kind of position, like recruited by Starfleet to do that sort of thing years later. Yeah, I don't know if she was Section 31 or if she was just Starfleet security or whatever.
Yeah, I'm not too sure.
But I liked that. I liked her coming back and the tearful, that was really good. And then we get to, let me see. So after they get the Ro, then they go to the Fleet Museum after Ro passes. They go to the Fleet Museum to get Geordi. And that's when we get little nods to not just, they say Hangar 12, and I guess everybody but me knew that was going to be the Enterprise D. And it wasn't that I didn't suspect that they might, maybe that's where they put the D or something like that, or they rebuilt a new version of the D. Okay. But I honestly didn't think with the budget and everything that they were going to be able to come through on that.
No.
And they did.
Idea.
Rebuilt the entire effing bridge. I was shocked. But we get to the Fleet Museum, and I thought that was a nice way. I really enjoyed that because it's like it wasn't just nostalgia for nostalgia's sake. One, they had to pick up Geordi, but two, they had the Enterprise A, they had the Voyager there, which was a nice little moment for Seven. They had the Defiant.
Yep.
And then they had the Bounty, the Klingon bird of prey from Star Trek IV, which has a cloaking device that became very useful for them in the season. So there was a story reason to be there. Yeah. And if you're going to be there anyway, why not bathe in the nostalgia? Because it's fun.
Exactly.
And, so that was cool. I really thought that was well done, how they put that together. And it gave Geordi the moments you were mentioning with his daughters and that sort of thing. That's his real life daughter, the one that was in the gold.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
not Sydney, but the other one.
No,
and I thought that was a nice little. Yeah, that was neat. Great. They did a good job. Yes. She did a good job too. I mean, the role didn't call that much for her, but she did all right.
I don't think there was even in any of the new crews on the Titan. I don't think there was a bad.
No, I liked them all.
Bad bit of casting.
No, I liked them all.
I mean, you look at New Worlds. You look at some people, especially the woman with the rubbish haircut who's the pilot, and you just instantly turned off from her. And then obviously, let's not even talk about the casting in Discovery. I think the casting they had for this one on the Titan, I think everyone was solid. I would actually watch a show with them.
Yeah, charming people. I do wish they hadn't killed the bald Vulcan lady.
Yeah.
Because I would have liked to see her in this crew.
But you know why they killed her? Because she would have been over 25, so therefore she wouldn't have been able to turn to Borg when it all happened.
I also think
they're a lot
that
older
it was.
Than us, aren't they?
I thought that was also a quick way to say, well, we'll need Diana to do the telepathic shit, even though Vulcans are better at it because we killed our only Vulcan.
Oh, okay. I didn't think of that. I just thought it was an age thing because it would have been one more that they wouldn't have been able to turn.
I think she just picked. I don't know that Vadic knew what the age thing would be or that would happen. I think it was more along the lines of I'm just going to pick random because you never know who I'm going to kill because I'm evil.
The other good thing about the whole museum was Jack Crusher turned out to be a bit of a fanboy of the ships. He knew the ships.
Yeah,
I quite liked that.
agree with Jack. The Constitution class, Enterprise A, best ship in the fleet. Yes.
Yeah.
Most beautiful. Most beautiful.
Yeah.
They also, while they're doing that, Riker, Rafi, and Worf go to Section 31, the Daystrom Station, where they find data, and that's where we get the Moriarty and call back to the whistling and all that kind of stuff, because the data is the security for, he's the AI security for everything. So how they were able to get a little snap-in piece to stick in the thing to disable the AI security, I don't know.
No.
Why that's a Vulcan gangster has got that, but fine, whatever. Why didn't Vatic have that? I don't know.
No. But again, let some things go. I didn't like the Kirk Phoenix. Why they've got Kirk's cloned body or whatever the hell that was. I didn't like that.
I don't know.
You got Genesis as well.
Apparently, Kirk is. I don't know why they're keeping him, because he can't even figure out how to move a revolving door.
Oh, Christ. Yeah.
Watch your Strange New Worlds trailer for more things that will make your piss boil. Yeah, just dumbness. But yeah, that's where you go nostalgia overload. It's like the Genesis torpedo. Okay. Yeah. Kirk's body. Nah. No. Not needed. And you say, well, then they can explain they have other captains in there, and then that's why they have. Okay, well, then show us the row of captains.
Yeah.
You know, then maybe I could kind of see that, even though I still think it's a little weird. But no, just Jim Kirk and Jean-Luc Picard, the two we know. Yeah. So, but okay, that why they do that, it was all to get Riker captured and to grab data.
Yeah.
And then the next one was to get data back to his. The next one they get Vatic captures the Titan. This is episode 7, and we find out Vatic's backstory and everything. This is the episode I like the least. It just didn't have much going on in it, and I didn't like them showing. Like, they show the backstory of Vatic, but it looks like a 19th century sanatorium with like squeaky gurney wheels. And
it's like Auschwitz or something. It's ridiculous.
I'm like, they have shit that floats. They don't need that stuff. You know, they don't. Yeah. Why do they have squeaky gurney wheels? I get it. Emotion. It touches emotion. It's images to grab your emotion.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff, you go one step over the line with that kind of stuff, you know, because it's like those don't exist in Star Trek. You don't need it. There's other ways to show that kind of stuff that will terrify you. You know, you don't need to do it that way. So yeah, and then after that, they get Data back. Data fights Lore. They get him back, and then he plugs into the Titan computer, and he gets everybody out of there. That's when they do the big Harrison Ford, get off my plane. And they open up the bridge, and Vatic goes out and shatters against the Shrike, and then they blow up the Shrike.
Was it ever explained why Jack was able to sort of enter people's minds? And
well, that's the thing that made him. He Borged everybody, right? He was the reason why everybody got Borged. He's the transmitter.
Okay. Right. Okay.
That's why he's called.
I'll get it in.
Yeah. So, but at a little tiny bit, he could do it with Sydney, but he probably couldn't do it with Picard or Beverly because they're too old. We just didn't know that at the time. Mm-hmm. But that's where that all came from. So yeah, I was okay with that. I was not okay with them able to stab and cut up changelings with a sword.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure edged weapons are kind of useless against shape-shifting jelly people.
Yeah, pretty. Yes. Oh, there's no. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm going to moan about her till the cows come home, but I
I
don't think
could.
there's one single scene with Raffi that I would enjoy. Whenever she was on screen, I would just switch off. I just think she's one of the most
Well, it
loathsome
was.
characters.
Yeah, it was. There was too many dumb action moments for spectacle. You gotta get into the spectacle.
Yeah.
It's a movie. This is a 10-hour movie. You gotta have crowd pleasing spectacle, explosions, and knife fights, and that kind of stuff
Yeah.
just bored me or made me
Karate
scratch my head
kicks.
or laugh. If I want mind-numbing stupid action, I'm gonna watch a Fast and Furious movie,
Yeah.
which are funny, but I watch them because they try to figure out ways to do the dumbest, most insane action moments that they can think of.
I've never watched one.
But that's what they are. And if you go into it with that mindset, you'll have a good time. If you go
Okay.
into it expecting logic, then no, they are soap operas with the most insane action you've ever seen.
Yeah, I've not my thing, mate.
I can understand that. I mean, I'm not defending it necessarily. I do enjoy them, but I enjoy them for what they are. I don't want to
Yeah.
see it in my Star Trek. I don't need it in my Star Trek. That's not where it belongs. So saying Rafi cut up jelly people. I mean, the very first episode of Deep Space Nine, somebody throws something at Odo and it just passes through him.
That's right.
And it was a great way to establish this is a shapeshifter and normal shit ain't gonna work on him. So why did they have her cutting up changelings with a sword?
Action.
Okay. Yeah, action. So that was dumb. So then, okay.
Oh,
They
I've got
take-
a point. I've got a nitpick. Talking of changelings, when they realise that there's changelings on board, and Seven finds the little pot thing that they sleep in hidden. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
And
it
she's
looks just like Odo's.
Yeah, but this is just like just walking along the corridors holding it. I'm like, there's people walking past that. Anything could be a changeling. She's just like, yeah. I'm like, get a bag, put it in a bag, put it on your jumper. You're walking along with the only thing that will let the changeling know that you've discovered there's changeling. She's just like strolling through. It's just like, come on.
I think
Again,
at the
I'm
time they only
nitpicking.
thought there was one. So,
Yeah.
but
But
yeah, I
one too
get
many.
it. The thing I don't understand is that, okay, so the changelings want to hurt the Federation. Understandable. Given what I mean, I have problems with the idea of the Federation doing these things to the changeling. Even Section 31, it feels like it's way too far, especially once
Yeah.
peace was done. I don't know why they would do that. But, okay, that you've established that they're mad. I get it. I don't know that it's in their interest to make the Borg the most powerful thing in the Alpha Quadrant, because they're gonna come through the wormhole to the Gamma Quadrant. If you think they're gonna stop there, you're out of your mind. I don't know what they think they were going to do. And then I really didn't understand their communication thing. I know it was for show, but cutting off her hand and making it into the communication so that the Borg Queen could talk to her, that seems needlessly complex.
Yeah, and gruesome as well.
Yeah. And again, for like I would have assumed that there was another changeling on the other line and they were using special changeling technology to communicate. Because of the Great Link, they could do it that way. They could use this technology to do it that way, and it wouldn't be able to be traced by subspace. That would have been my explanation. But it wasn't. It was a Borg. She was talking to the Borg Queen,
Yeah,
I guess. I don't know.
yeah, that didn't make sense.
I don't know if they. I mean, maybe if they'd said something like, well, changelings can't be assimilated. We're too different. They've tried. They can't assimilate us. That's why we were
Yeah, I
so
suppose they'd be able to
powerful or
change.
something.
They can change their DNA, so no nanobots
Yeah,
will be able to infiltrate
we
their
could do
system.
so much. But she was clearly frightened of the Borg Queen. So,
Yeah,
And then you go to the Borg Queen. Borg Queen is basically just eating her own. She's like Howard Hughes. Shitting in
Eating a young.
jars and eating her dead Borg drones. It's like, oh my god, how is this a threat?
Brilliant makeup though. Hats off to the makeup department because she looked amazing.
Yeah, that was Alice Krieg doing the voice, but it was not her in the thing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was somebody else.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's nice to bring her back, the original Borg Queen voice anyway. She's probably well in her 70s, didn't want to get up in that thing, but I don't blame her.
Could you imagine it?
Yeah. She still would look better than what she ended up looking like in that though. So then they get to Vox, and that's when they figure out that it's a Borg thing, and Jack gets on a shuttle. He's going to take a bomb or something. He's going to destroy the Borg Queen, but he can't. I don't know why he can't, because if he could just choose to leave her after he's all assimilated, I can't believe that he couldn't pull a trigger.
Well, he liked it, didn't he? When Picard plugged himself back in, Jack was saying, I feel like I belong, it's quiet and I'm not alone. And so I think he liked it.
Was it? So when they're saying that because it came across like you can't do it, otherwise you've done it already or something like that. Like he was physically unable to kill her, rather than he couldn't do it because his emotion he needed to know or something. I got more like he wanted to, but he couldn't because she was doing something. But then he just says, I'm done being a Borg now. I'm going to go back.
Yeah, my daddy loves me. I've had enough. I want to go. I want to go home.
I want to go home. She looked great. The set looked great. I thought he looked like a cosplayer playing Locutus.
Yeah.
The outfit was not good. It was not... No. Like, I know if you watch the original series, the way the Borg looked in the series versus the way they changed them in the movie and how they adopted that look afterwards is very different. Mm-hmm. They were just a bunch of white guys in some spandex with some crap glued onto them. And they, pasted their face white. But in the movie, they made them much more like bionic zombies or something, right?
Yeah. With the veins and everything else.
But this looked like they made him look in that show, which was, good enough for the show. I get it. Budget limitations, things like that.
Yeah.
But in this, to kind of, see, this is where I get back to, well, which is it, right? You got to recreate him looking just like he did as Locutus. That's what they were going for. The same outfit, same everything. The same laser, the same facial thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing. But you've changed and made the Borg look much different, so now he looks cheap.
Yeah. You're right. He looks like cosplay.
Which one is it, If you're going to recreate it, then the cube should have looked as cheap and clean as it did back then. But you didn't make it look like that.
No, so, modify it. Some things need modifying, some don't.
They could have gone for similar look. They could have had the same facial thing and that kind of stuff, but they could have made the outfit look better. Or just not giving him an outfit. Just say, screw it. We don't have the resources. Just put the face thing on there and click them in. We don't need to do the whole outfit. That would have been fine. I would have understood that because he would have just been assimilated,
Yeah.
It's like when you see the Enterprise crewmen where they have a few things on their face, but they're still wearing the uniform and First Contact, before they've... Could have been like that. And they don't have the people to go in there and do everything because she's been eating them. So...
All but two.
So I can understand that. But then... Okay, so... Anyway, he goes off to do the Borg, and then he sends the signal, and everybody under 25 gets Borgified, and they work it out. So funnily enough, the original 7 are the ones who leave the ship. They're the ones that head off. Now, again, why didn't Rafi and 7 go with them? There was no reason for them to stay. But I get it. It had to be just them. It had to be just them because they're going to the Enterprise D. I get it. I accept it. Again, logic says they all should have gone. Thematically, nostalgia, everything else. No, it had to be just the 7 on the bridge of the Enterprise D. And yes, when they showed that Enterprise D, when they all came on, that last scene in Vox, I was crying like a fucking. I didn't even expect to be as completely turned inside out as I was in that moment. And that's why I think that was the best episode of the whole thing, because the anticipation, everybody, the last character of Next Generation has finally been brought back. You brought back Data, now you're bringing back the Enterprise. Yeah. And that was wonderful. And it was perfect. Yes, I was being manipulated like crazy, and I was fine with it. Every story manipulates you. That's the point, right?
Yeah, of course.
This one did it authentically, and I was just blubbering like a baby. And then we get to the last episode, and it's like, just fire that over there, and it'll all blow up. Oh, okay. That was easy. It's the 3 carriers again. Oh, murder! Oh, damn, we're in the we're in the drink. Well, we've crashed.
I'll tell you what the last episode did for me. It gave, which I haven't felt for a long time. It gave me a sense of fear for the characters. I was actually watching it and I was thinking, please don't let anyone die. And then you saw Riker and Worf, and you're thinking, Worf's been injured. Riker said goodbye to Troy, and I'm thinking, I just want them all to survive.
I never thought for a second. I never thought for a second. That would have been not the way they've arranged this show. Not with all the member berries and all the feel good. There was no way. Besides, they had their death in the last episode with Shaw. Shaw was the death that I was not expecting or wanting, and that one was a little choke up too.
Yeah, but this is modern day TV where they've got to do something ridiculous. And I was thinking, they're gonna fucking kill Riker. They're gonna kill him because he's found his happy place again.
Now they let everybody have. They had everybody have it. I don't know. I guess I can kind of tell, but the way Matalis was doing this, I don't think he had the guts or the desire to kill any of the original 7. He wanted this to be See, they already had all that. That's what the problem was with the Next Generation movies, is all the dire and this was all about fixing all that and repairing some of that damage, as well as some of the damage from the last 2 Picard seasons as well. This was about giving us explanations, giving us closure. They killed Ro, so that was part of that too. You could say that was, so they killed enough people that they had their proper amount of sacrifice and blood to have, so that they could earn this happy ending. And that's fine.
No, he got me. He got me, man. I was sitting there thinking, please, like, come on, let's just. I want everyone out of this. I want a nice little bow on top. I want to leave them all. And I was just
thinking, done.
Riker's going to go. Worf's going to go. This is going to happen. And I was like, no, come on. So
they got it done within like 40 minutes. They were done.
Yeah, but Matalis did get me rooting for everyone again. So hats off to him for that, because for the first time in a long time, I actually gave a shit about the characters I was watching.
Now we had Return of the King levels of endings here, right? It went on and on and on. I was, for the most part, fine with all of it, because I think it gave us some nice closure, except for poor Laris, who's probably still sitting there at the bar waiting for Picard to show up.
He totally forgot about her. See you later.
I'm hoping that because they did kind of shove that 1 year later in there, which I think was somewhat planned, but not quite planned. Like, they did the 1 year later, and they're all standing there on the bridge turning off the Enterprise now that it's in its proper ring and the Fleet Museum. They're all wearing the same clothes they were. So, but then they get to the Titan or the Enterprise G, and Jack is on board with them and all that. And you could say, okay, well, then a year would have had to have passed. So I think there was, I think he just messed up when to put the 1 year later. Not that they put it in there. So I'm guessing that he went back and he met with Laris and they're fine. And he just has one more moment with the crew at Guinan's bar.
But do you know what? I think it just shows you how no one gives a shit about the previous 2 seasons' characters.
Yeah.
Because until you just mentioned it, I was like, I'd even forgotten about her.
Yeah, I know. Apparently he did too.
Yeah.
She's sitting at the bar going, he's dead.
This is the longest game of poker in the world.
I love that bald robot. But yeah, pulling away, making our ending scene the nice game of poker where they spun up just like they did in.
Yeah.
That felt like, okay, yeah, I like that because I get choked up at that last episode of All Good Things.
Yes.
Where he says, that, all right, 5 card stud, nothing wild. Sky's the limit. And the way he delivers that line, it's like he's just finally, they've become the family they've always should have been. He was the last piece to really let his guard down and see them more than just his loyal crew that he loves, but he's letting that guard down. That was the whole through line through the entire series, where he was a very private man, right? Yep. And he always has his guard up, and he always only allows so much closeness throughout the entire series. And him saying that at the end was like him bringing down that last guard and making them his family. So having it come back to that and reinforcing that idea of them, because the whole season was reconnecting. They had split apart. They'd gone their separate ways. Some of them they hadn't talked to in 20 years. They all have come back together. They all realize they rekindle and reestablish and find again that family that they always were and should have never parted. And that's wonderful. That's, to me, really gets to the heart of the show and the heart of the characters. Because, and I said this before, I think, but Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are archetypes. They are the id, the ego, and the super ego, right? That's why the other characters don't have a character. Sulu, Chekhov, Uhura, Scotty, they don't have characters. We know very little about them unless you've read a bunch of novels or stuff. I mean, if you just watch the shows or watch the movies, they are familiar people that support, and we know zip about them. The closest we ever got was Sulu got his own command at the end, and he was able to make some decisions and have some agency of his own that he never got because he was always, yes, sir, I'll heading this way, sir, warp 5, sir, whatever. The other character, that's not what, it's kind of like the difference between DC and Marvel, right? DC is archetypes. Marvel are people that get powers shoved on them.
Yep.
And so they're much more human stories, at least at the beginning. So that's the difference between Star Trek TOS and Star Trek Next Generation. I love them both for various reasons. But Star Trek Next Generation is much more about characters. Everybody has a character arc. You know all the characters. There's nobody that's... You can say Picard is the most important, but every one of them have importance within this to a greater level.
With a good backstory that you know.
Yes, they're all humans. They're not archetypes. And so Star Trek, The Undiscovered Country, going off into the sunset in a very epic blaze of glory with them all on the bridge, and it feels very big and epic and huge, just the way they go out. It's great because that fits those archetypes. But for the Next Generation crew, them going out and a quiet game of pinochle, that's much more in line with what you want to see. It's a much more human and emotional moment for me.
Yeah.
And I love that. To me, that's why this season was so successful, because for all the nitpickings that we've talked about the plot points and the Borg and the E's and everything, it was really about bringing these characters back as humans to have one last story about them and their reconnections and the importance of, not to get to Fast and Furious, but family.
Yeah.
And Deanna even says it. Jack and Sydney, they're our family too. You're all our family. We are going together. There's no, loyalty and friendship and connectivity and connection. And that's why this season succeeded so well, in my opinion.
And do you know what? There was closure for Patrick Stewart as well, because I was very critical of the first two seasons, because I know he had a hand in it as well. I did compare him to Mark Hamill, the way Hamill carried on with Luke Skywalker. But this for me it gave me closure over Patrick Stewart, because I was bored after seasons 1 and 2. I was like, you horrible bastard, how can you do this to this character? But then this one, he had elements of the new Picard, where he's a little bit older now, a little bit more mellow, which happens to us all. He had some great comedy chops in there. Obviously, with the poker, where he pulled out the card at the end.
Yeah.
That was great. And obviously, it goes without saying when he said, the most thing that I've missed out of everything is carpet. I thought that was brilliant.
Can I just say, I had no idea this was a thing. Everybody's talking about, carpet. So I guess, yes, I understand that Next Gen Deep Space Nine, I don't know if Voyager did. Maybe it did. But they all had carpet. And I'm guessing some of that was for aesthetic reasons and some of it was for noise canceling and things like that because of all the
Possibly.
shit. I don't know. Whatever reason, maybe it was just the style. But for whatever reason, carpet was all over. And now they have, shiny metal floors or whatever now.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't care. I mean, it was something I just never even, it just completely passed me by. But apparently, I did some research. Everybody's just freaking out, just love carpet now. And they just miss carpet. Everybody's all crazy about carpet. I'm like,
yeah, carpet's back.
What? Why does everybody give a shit about carpet or hard? I don't care. I do care that it's not lit properly, but
yeah,
it's like when I'm watching something with my wife. I'll be watching a show, with many women actually, but she'll just remarks like, "Oh, I like her shoes."
yeah,
Who the fuck looks at a person's shoes? Only women look at that kind of shit. Well, apparently Star Trek fans are like women. They just love the carpet. Okay, I guess that's a thing now. I didn't know. I don't know why this is a thing, but it's a thing.
I thought that was, it's a thing. That was a nice touch. That was good how he done that. And I'll tell you what I particularly liked as well, how when shit got real and they had to step back into their old roles, the old Picard come back. And obviously you got the engage and make sense. But what I liked about it, Yoda, was the fact
did his voice get better? Did his voice come back for just a minute when he said, make it so and engage? When he said that, it sounded like his old voice again for just a minute.
Just a minute. But what was good as well is when he was giving out orders to do something, he was referring to him as Mr. Data and Mr. LaForge. Mr. Data.
Yeah.
And I was like, that is such a nice, subtle. They've all just gone straight back into their old roles because they were friends and they were old friends and they were family. And then you got to that final bit where it all matters. It's like, Mr. Data, please do blah, blah, blah. Mr. LaForge, can you? And I was like, that's great. They've just slipped back into it.
There was a great moment. I don't know if anybody notices this, but there was tons and tons of scenes, and it was like it hit me, but it really hit me when there was always that scene where they would face the camera towards the view screen, and Data would be turning to look at the camera because he's turning to look at Picard. Right. So they would show that scene, and they had that moment where he's kind of in that same position that he did like 8 million times before to look back and say, I think we should, use the tractor beam to push the ship out of the way, something along those lines or something. Right. And they did that with the right camera angle and everything. You could see a little corner of the view screen. You can see him turning around. He's got the thing in front. It's like, it's the thing. crying.
So all in all, basically, we've nitpicked, but we've come full circle and we loved it. Let's be honest, it was awesome,
Yeah,
and I would watch it again.
Again, we're Star Trek fans,
Yep.
so we have, since the dawn of being Star Trek fans, there's been attention to insane details. Right? They made fun of it in Saturday Night Live way back in '86 because Shatner was doing Saturday Night Live because Star Trek 4 had come out, so he was hosting.
Right.
And it was like he was at a Star Trek convention, and people were like, "Yeah, you know the episode where you got hit by the spores, and you were going to go down to the planet, and you were getting your stuff out of the safe." Yeah. What was the combination of the safe? I don't know, so that's been going on since the show came out, right? So yes, we're nitpicking piles of stuff, but as far as thematically, what you were trying to do with the characters, to grow the characters, to give them one last ride, the themes of connection and family and all that kind of stuff, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I can't fault your intentions or your effort, Terry Matalas.
Your attention to detail.
Your attention to detail, your respect for the franchise. I can't fault any of that. I can only, I think plot-wise, nitpicking, things that could have been better. I could say that about the original Star Wars. But that doesn't really lessen my enjoyment of it. It felt like a respectful and honorable way to finally give these characters their final hurrah. And I don't think I could be happier.
Yeah, I agree. When I kept hearing buzz about how good season 3 was at the beginning, and I was thinking it can't be that good after what we've endured. It can't be that good. And then when people like Nerdrotic were coming out, how good it was, and Red Letter.
You were fighting it.
Even
through episode 4, you were like going, "Oh no, I've been hurt before."
I know. It was actually episode 4.
Not ready to lift the restraining order just yet.
But I let my guard down because I found myself grinning from ear to ear. I can't remember what episode it was, but I found myself grinning from ear to ear, and I was like, do you know what? Just stick the landing. Just please stick the landing, because so far, so good. And I know as we speak right now, I know Bubba Phil I think he's watching the whole season today.
And I keep getting a thing. I think he's on episode 3 or 4 by now, but I keep getting something on the Slack.
He's like, when we started.
This is pretty good. This is really good. Oh my God, I'm loving it. I have a feeling by the 7th episode, we're just going to get a picture of him just masturbating furiously
in a Picard t-shirt.
I love it. Wearing a Trek uniform, right? And he's just fapping furiously
with a Deanna Troy wig on. Yeah, he's going for it. He's really going for it.
I'm a bad man.
He's got to be on episode 6 by now, I think. Looking at the time.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see. I have a feeling once he gets, I had a feeling once he got started, he wasn't going to be able to stop.
No.
There was no way.
No, so I'm looking forward to hearing his thoughts tomorrow.
Yeah. So these go on a lot longer when we have a lot more to be angry about. So I have a feeling we'll have a 6 or 7 hour discussion for Strange New Worlds.
Oh, God. It's great. My room's got really dark. It's brilliant sunshine out there, but my room, I've sat myself in the worst room in the house.
That's all right. We can see.
Sorry about that. There you go.
You're emulating the lighting of Picard.
Yeah, and I haven't got carpet either. I've got wooden floors.
Yeah, stage lighting and wooden floors. You've got it all worked out.
I'm on the time.
That is my biggest nitpick of all of these shows. Turn on the goddamn lights, please.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean,
Let's be honest. Some of these missions are 5 years long. They don't even live in the dark for 5 years.
I can understand wanting to do more theatrical lighting and maybe not, fluorescent even TV lighting. I get that, but there's got to be something in between. What the hell am I looking at? And yeah, you know what I'm saying?
I've got a theory. I think it's because we're all in HD now, or Ultra HD in some cases. Do you think that just some of these actors and actresses just look like shit, and they need to tone it down so we don't actually see how rough they look in real life?
They got digital Vaseline for that. They can,
Do
they can do whatever they want. I don't think so, because there's a lot of shows, especially on network TV, that are lit just fine.
Okay.
It's something to do with these. It's always these prestige shows. You saw where I said all the openings for these shows are all the same, and I just kind of stitched them all together.
Yeah.
But all these shows, they're always filmed in the dark for some reason. I think it's to give it, because it's serious. And so if it's serious, it's got to be dark. And so turn down, we're going to light the entire set with a 40-watt bulb. And it's like, come on, it's not the lighting. It's it's like the Batman movie. And I know the Batman is in Gotham and it's dark, but I could see it felt like it was dark and nighttime in Tim Burton's. I never felt like I had any problem seeing what was going on the screen.
Yeah.
You don't need to do it that way. So I don't know why they do it that way, but
no, and I've said it before, it's like a complete 360 to Abrams timeline, where everyone's like, oh, it's too many light flares, it's too bright, and it's horrible, and they've just gone, okay, well, in that case, we'll just make everything fucking black. See how you like that?
Let's flare.
Again, find a happy medium. Find a happy medium.
Well, Mr. Abrams, we went and we took a couple of pictures of this Apple store. We'd like to do that. Great.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So all in all, though, a fantastic send-off for the TNG crew. I hope, and I say this with genuine sincerity, I hope we don't see them back, because they're not going to top this. Just all of you, just retire. Maybe a guest appearance once in a while, but...
Yeah, and I think they will. I mean, I don't see many of them. They don't do that much anyway, and they don't need to. They got more than enough residuals that are going to come from this and various and the original show and everything else. So they would do well to go out on top. Now, unfortunately, this is not the end of Star Trek. We've seen the Strange New World trailer, but we've also understand that they're either starting production or just announced that they're doing Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh. An actress I like very much, but have no interest in seeing this nonsense.
No.
And Strange New Worlds, I'm
not confident.
The trailer did not give me confidence.
No.
The trailer looked like more of that touchy, feel good. It's women taking over Star Trek.
Yeah. Curtain a revolving door, like, do me a favor.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong. When a woman does something like Sex in the City that appeals to women, I got no real issues for it. It's not for me. But that doesn't mean that I think it's like, if this appeals to women, or when you see all these romantic comedies that appeal to women, and probably women have a hand in writing them and things like that, they understand what appeals to women, and that's fine. I'm not saying all women. I'm just saying I get it. That's fine. Trek is for the most part a guy thing, and I know there's some women out there going, I love Trek forever. I get it. Yes, that's fine. But what did you like about it? You liked it because it was a very non-emotional show. As much as everybody talks about how Spock is always talking to these humans with these foolish human emotions, the truth is, even the humans are pretty damn non-emotional in these shows. They matter of fact, they don't cry. They don't make stupid comments on the bridge. They don't do all this snarky attitudes. That doesn't happen. Okay. Did the TNG crew have a few moments? Was Data smiling as he was running the Enterprise through the Borg cube? Yeah. They've got 35 years under their belt. They've earned it.
Yep. Exactly.
Same as in Discovered Country when Uhura started getting a little snarky on the bridge. They'd been together for 30 some odd years. They earned it.
Yeah.
They have not earned shit in a brand new show. You have to start out, you have to earn all that stuff. You have to be true Starfleet personnel, professionals, all that kind of stuff. And they're not doing any of that. They did all that in the original show. They got all that away. They made those connections. It took them 7 years to do it with 24 episodes a year, give or take. Mm-hmm. Guys, they earned it. Your first show, which has 10 episodes, and we've barely gotten to know the characters, you haven't earned shit. You can't be acting like this now. So I have that, but they are. So I have no optimism about this show.
No, and then we've got the Academy, Starfleet Academy, that Kurtzman's also doing.
Am I understanding
that that's going to be?
That's going to be Academy in the Discovery era? When I say Discovery era, like they're in the 31st century or something?
Oh, I don't know. I've not, to be honest with you, I've got so little interest in it that I've not paid any attention to what era it's set in. All I know, it's just going to be full of 20-year-olds with snarky comments who know more than the 40, 50-year-olds that are commanding them. And it's going to be rife with diversity and representation and homosexuality. And I'm not interested in any of this.
It's nothing like watching people who have to save the universe who are sexually confused all the time.
Oh, God.
I mean, if you look back on the first Star Trek, the one you say you like, I mean, some of that Academy bullshit was already in there, you know, the way Kirk was always acting like a horn dog every 5 seconds. I mean, that was a joke that people did because Kirk would get sometimes a lady in various episodes. He didn't get it every episode, but he would find a lady, they would have a kiss. But if you really look at that with an objective eye, Kirk was very much married to the ship.
100%,
he was
yeah.
100%. And there were situations that he got himself into, but it wasn't like he was just running around going
like a Benny Hill.
He wasn't, you know, this what they, you know, was he a ladies' man? Yeah, maybe a bit, but not like the way they portrayed him in 2009. And then they go to the Kobayashi Maru, which is, when you see it in Star Trek 2, they are taking, you think it's a real, if you didn't know that movie, you think it's a real thing and everybody's dying until the surprise, they open it up, it turns out to be a test. But it's supposed to be as realistic as possible in a no-win scenario to show you that sometimes you cannot make the right solution and people are going to die no matter what you do. And you have to learn to cope with that. And in the Star Trek 2009, they say, well, it's about feeling fear, which is no, that's not what that episode is about, or that test is about. And secondly, if everybody knows it's a test and they're joking around, and he's eating an apple, and Uhura's running her mouth in the back, and he's playing games because he knows it's like, what? Who's going to feel fear in that situation?
I know. Who's going to up their game to test themselves? They're
not even blowing up the consoles. They're doing simulated bang, bang, you know. It was a dumb. And I'm like, oh, this is how they're going to show. They're going to take that crap and they're going to make it worse in this Starfleet Academy because they don't understand Star Trek.
No. But what is it with these franchises hiring people that don't understand the franchise and then running it into the ground? Obviously, we got it with Kathleen Kennedy at Star Wars, and we've got it with Kurtzman and even JJ to the extent with Star Trek. Why are these studio executives and the people in charge of these not going? I mean, they must have some sort of interview process before they give these franchises over. Why are they not just going, you clearly don't know what you're talking about? I mean, the article I wrote about Section 31 with Michelle Yeoh, Kurtzman come out and said, oh, she was groundbreaking because she was one of the first 2 women in a pilot episode of Star Trek. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? So he clearly has no understanding of this franchise, and yet he's the showrunner.
Well, I think it comes down to what C.S. Lewis once said. And I think this is what's happening with these people. Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It would be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. Now, the reason why I say that is because I believe that with ESG, BlackRock, the way companies are funded, trying to meet these diversity, equity, inclusion nonsense, that they've become these moral busybody do-gooders that I think are the same types that befell Christianity 30 to 60 years ago. The ones that were protesting movies and there's satanic messages on your record player. The nonsense that they would come up with. The devil is going to, they did themselves no favors, and that type of oppression that they, and I would call it maybe social or cultural oppression that they put people through for decades, and even would use it to justify racism and slavery and Jim Crow laws, and that this all begat this feminism and some of this other stuff because they couldn't keep their mouths shut and let people be. We have a new breed of that now, except the new breed is now all in our institutions, and they run our companies, and they run our entertainment media. And these people do not sleep. They believe in good conscience that everything they're doing is correct, with no concept of the damage they're creating, just like the Bible thumpers did back in the day. I sincerely see this as this cult. I'm not trying to call Christianity a cult, but I'm saying that there were people in it that followed things in a cult-like tendency to the exclusion of reason, to the exclusion of practicality, to the exclusion of reality. And that is where we are now, but on the other side. Except they have no Bible to somewhat keep them in check. There is a set of rules that even the most fervent Bible thumper will generally not cross. Well, some of them will, but that's probably even not true. But it felt like because those rules were there, you would have less of those people that would cross those lines, with outright murder and everything. There is no Bible on the left in diversity, inclusion, and equity, or it's written with an etch-a-sketch because it changes every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So these people that run these companies that have money, wealth, power, and influence, they are running these corporations to their own conscience, the way their conscience tells them to run it, misguided as though it is. And so this is why you get these things in there. They think they're fighting some sort of huge battle against oppression that the people that did the oppressing have pretty much lost that war since the 80s, the 90s at the latest, and have no power, and they're still fighting those people that have been, pushed to the hills. And so they use all this cultural influence to create this nonsense because they're looking for these oppressors under every rock, nook, and cranny that they can. And that's why you end up with so much gay, so much mixed couples. You end up with all this stuff put in there, not because I'm racist and I need to be taught these things, but because they think I am.
Yeah.
without even knowing me or understanding me or understanding the world anymore. And so reality has become oppression to them. And so they continue to do this every single moment of every single day, and they will not stop. They can only be defeated and run out of these companies, or the companies themselves will become like the Borg cube. The people will be eating its corpse, which to a certain extent, I think that's what's happened to Disney. I think you just got a bunch of they're all living off the corpse of what once was good at Disney, and it's pretty much a decaying.
Yeah. There's only so much meat on them bones.
Yeah. So you ask the question, why do these people they know exactly what they're doing, and there's one or two people. There's the people that are just saying, I'm just going to ride this and do whatever because it'll keep my job and I make good money, and the others that actually fervently believe this nonsense. Mm-hmm. And so us having any criticism or pointing out the flaws of it makes us the oppressive, nasty, racist, homophobic, sexist Christians evil. Just say evil. They make us the evil that they're fighting against. And they can't see past it. They can't.
No. Isn't it nice, though, knowing that we have this back catalogue of history of proper TV and movies, that we don't need anything that they're making anymore. We don't need their new stuff. Keep it. Run yourselves into the ground, because I've got 40 years of history of stuff that I can watch and never get tired of.
You do, and that's true. My concern is the younger generation in the world we're leaving them. You've seen what they've done to Roald Dahl. You've seen what they're starting to rewrite Fleming books. Yeah, they've completely massacred the original Star Wars movie with various pieces of nonsense. And quite frankly, I mean, my wife will rarely, if ever, watch a movie that's in black and white because it's in black and white, right? I know a lot of people that are like that. They just don't want to watch an old movie. It's too old. I don't like it. And so they can't get, they won't experience those stories because they're just going to watch the recent stuff. They're not going to understand what it was built upon. So, yes, we still have those for as long as it lasts until they edit them or remove them from various digital forms and people aren't buying the hard copies anymore. And then all we have left is the things that they've replaced it with. And that's my worry. That's my concern.
I think all these cretins that are running everything at the moment in the media will soon realise that there's no longevity in anything they're created, and they'll revert back to good old-fashioned stuff that we like. It's already happening now.
Well, I hope you're right.
A lot of people in their mid to late 20s are watching classic, well, they call them classics, from the 90s and the 80s. And, you've got older children, I've got older children, and I know they like the older stuff.
I think so. I hope you're right. That may be like they don't find any meaning or anything useful in any of the new stuff, and so they start saying, "Well, this is built off of this. It must be something," and they got to start discovering it. That would be the hope. And
that's
you're
what's
right.
Happening.
I find it odd that we do have this show, considering that there seems to be no stopping or changing Kurtzman Trek. Strange New Worlds will still be terrible. Discovery is getting removed. I think it's got one more season, but it's not going to be any different than what we've done. Now they got the Starfleet Academy. It will be terrible. Yep. And I don't know if Picard was like, well, give it to Terry. He's been wanting to do something for a while. Nobody cares about it anymore. And he had the nerve to go make something that was really good and did it sneak under the radar? Or is this a wake-up call for Paramount? I heard that this season 3 is actually doing so well, it's actually on the Nielsen ratings for measuring TV shows, that it actually cracked. That's how popular it is. I don't know how far or how well it's doing, but the fact that it's creating those kinds of blips that people are talking about, that's wonderful. But when I hear that Paramount is going to continue making garbage Kurtzman Trek, like, I don't know how much of it is legal mumbo jumbo contracts that it's just impossible to get out of. I don't know. But I don't know why Paramount. I mean, there's got to be ways to kind of work around that and just wait them out and just keep saying, nah, we're not doing that or we're not doing this. Some of it's already in the can. You got to do it. I mean, they filmed Strange New World Season 2 before. That was already in the can and in post-production before Picard came out. So they probably didn't know what they had on their hands until this response, I guess, is what we need to do to keep them on the right track. But I guess the second response is don't watch Strange New Worlds. Or watch it, but, be honest about it, I guess. Give a bad reaction if it's bad. Oh, maybe it's good. Maybe we'll be pleasantly surprised, but I'm not seeing anything that's making me think that.
No, I'm the same. I think the reception that Picard has got has caught Paramount completely off guard. And I think the announcement of Section 31 and this Starfleet Academy is basically them puffing out their chest saying, well, you're all wrong and we're right and we're staying on this trajectory. I wouldn't be surprised if Section 31 and Academy doesn't even get made. I think after the success of Picard, I think Paramount needs to take a good, hard look at themselves and go, do you know what? A bit like the new Star Wars trilogy. Will they get made? I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure they will because I think they want to hide into nothing. It's too late for Strange New World Season 2 and it's too late for Discovery Season 5. How that's got 5 seasons, I don't know. I think once the dust settles on this and they start reading the reviews and the ratings, I think they're going to take a good look at themselves and think, I think we want to hide into nothing with Academy, and I think we want to hide into nothing for Section 31.
Yeah, I'm wondering. Okay, so we had Maverick last year, right?
Yep.
John Wick seems to be did pretty well. I'm trying to think what else did well last year that was unexpected, not woke. I have to look.
I can't think.
But now you have Picard Season 3 coming out.
Yeah.
And then you have, let me see, the top movies last year were Maverick, Avatar, which is still trucking along, Black Panther and Doctor Strange, Jurassic World, Thor, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, I hear is pretty good.
I've heard that's really good.
But nothing else here that was really a surprise. I heard Top Gun, which was just killed it at the box office.
Yes.
And then you've got this year, you've got this Mario movie, which is not woke. It's not anti-woke. It's just a video game movie. And I mentioned this in the roast. I said Mario is, it's like there's this big culture war. Mario doesn't want to participate in it. It just wants to tell a video game movie. Yeah. And a lot of people say by not participating, it's anti-woke.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying because that is the rules the woke have set out. If you're not with us, you're against us, right?
Yep.
Even if you don't want to participate, you're against us.
But like the Sith, they're dealing absolutes.
Right. But I also think that this movie was not trying to make some sort of big cultural statement. It was trying to make a video game movie. Now, if it's being enlisted by the anti-woke, it's saying, see, this is non-woke. This is what people want. And they're right. They're not incorrect about that. I'm trying to draw a little bit of subtlety there between, I mean, if Mario came out and was like saying, Princess Daisy, bitch, get in the kitchen, make me a sandwich. Whatever. Anti-woke, If Princess Daisy really needed to be rescued and she wasn't able to do the things that she was able to do, maybe you could say that's a little bit more on the nose, which would make it more anti-woke. this wasn't trying to do that, but it wasn't trying to elevate Princess Peach. You know, it wasn't. It just
Wasn't preachy.
Just was. No, it was. It had the thinnest of stories, which, if you think about it, so does the video game.
Yeah.
What's the goal? I got to go rescue Princess Peach. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
And the rest of the video game is jump right, do this, do that, go find the secret thing, watch out for the plant, you know, the turtle. But there's no story to it. It's just working your way through the levels. And the video game was the same way, or the movie was the same way. Excuse me. So I'm like going, okay, it's fine. It just tried to tell us a good story, and that has netted it the biggest video game movie ever. It's going to be in the top 10 animated movies, maybe the top 5.
Nice.
It's killing it in every which way. Kids seem to love it. Parents don't seem to hate it, and that's great. Good. I that's the kind of thing I'd like to see. Is between Picard season 3, Top Gun Maverick, and this, are we starting to see a sea change in Hollywood executives? I don't think we're going to know right away.
No. But I think we're definitely onto something. I think we've turned a corner with it all. And I think, if I'm honest, I think the reception of Indiana Jones 5 is going to be such a monumental moment in the entertainment industry. Because if any of the rumours are true, and it does look shit, and people reject Indiana Jones, they've rejected Star Trek, they've rejected Star Wars, they reject Indiana Jones, then I think that is going to be a huge wake-up call for them. Because I think that's just going to push it over the edge. I think that's going to be a point where they go, do you know what? Enough's enough. We can't keep losing money and receiving this amount of pushback from the fans. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know what else they're going to do. It's I don't want to get too far off the beaten path here, but I spoke about, I think Disney is doomed as a company. They put all their eggs in the Pixar MCU Star Wars basket, and now they don't make anything else, or very little. And without it, how are they going to sustain themselves? Because their characters in their movies are what is the engine, the fuel for the cruise ships, the parks, everything else. All those characters and everything get people excited about doing those things. Without, if those dry up, if they can't keep those people excited, and in fact have actively angered people who used to love those properties like you and I, how could Disney survive as a company? I don't see it, because they don't have anything else, or at least nothing new that they can keep doing. They're not making all these, so I don't see Disney surviving for another 5 years. I really don't, because at least not in its current form.
no, not at all. You're going to have to edit all that out because it's totally irrelevant to Star Trek. And this sun's now moved right here, so I've moved and I'm now not being cooked alive.
No, I think we can wrap it up. So I've loved Picard season 3. Yes, I have a lot of plot issues with it. There's issues with it all over the place, but for the most part, good job. And great send off. And if you haven't watched it, I think you'll love it. Eggy, you got anything left?
No, just thank you for Terry Matalis for making me believe there's life in the old dog yet.
Yeah. I think there is a lot of stuff in Star Trek that can be done. They just don't have the people that know how to do it.
No. Well, now they do.
Yeah, so he's never going to work again.
No, not at all. But
All
that was
right.
good. Good chat, Yoda. Appreciate that.
So thank you all for watching Outposters. And yeah, I know we meandered a few places, but in the end, Picard season 3 is I would call a triumph. I would call it a return to form, and it's nice to get one last one last drop of blood out of that turnip. So take care, and we'll see you on the next stream.